The joke that wasn't funny. In a quiet rural town where gossip traveled faster than the wind and pride meant everything, a cruel joke was played that would ripple far beyond anyone's expectations. A young woman named Ilara, blind since the age of 10, had become the subject of ridicule by people too shallow to see her strength. Though she had lost her sight, she carried herself with an elegance that made many uneasy because she walked not with pity but with dignity. A group of idle men and women, convinced she would never find a husband, whispered a plan to send her off as a bride to the reclusive rancher who lived miles from town. His name was Silas McGraw, a hardened man known for his solitude, his scarred face, and the suspicion that he had been abandoned too many times to trust again. They believed pairing the blind bride with the beast of the ranch would be the most hilarious humiliation the town could conjure. Ilara heard the rumors but chose silence. She had lived her whole life with people underestimating her, mocking her struggles. When the so-called arrangement was announced, she surprised everyone by agreeing. She packed her small bundle of belongings, touched the edge of her walking stick, and whispered to herself, "If this is to be my fate, I will make it my story." Silas had no intention of entertaining strangers. He valued his ranch, his land, and the animals he raised more than people. When they brought Ilara to his doorstep, giggling behind their hands, he nearly slammed the door. But then he saw her, standing tall despite her blindness, not flinching at the cruel laughter around her. Something in her stillness pierced through the iron walls he had built. Against his better judgment, he allowed her to step inside. The townsfolk left, already chuckling about how long she would last before being thrown out. But they underestimated two things: Ilara's spirit and Silas's hidden longing for someone who would see beyond his scars. Days turned into weeks, and Ilara learned the rhythms of the ranch by touch and sound. She could tell which horse was restless by the sound of its hooves. When the cattle needed water by the way, they breathed in the afternoon heat, and even how Silas's voice softened slightly when he spoke to the animals. She cooked meals by memory, cleaned, and listened, truly listened, to Silas in a way no one else had. Slowly, the man who had been silent for years began to speak again. The town grew restless, expecting her return in disgrace. But rumors trickled back of how Silas no longer drank alone on his porch, how the ranch seemed more alive, how laughter, real, surprising laughter, was heard from a place that had been silent for so long. When confronted, Silas growled and Ilara only smiled. What no one knew yet was that a bond was forming stronger than any mockery. The return that shook the town. 2 years passed since Ilara walked into Silas's life, and the world around them had transformed. The blind bride once mocked was now the heart of the ranch. With every sunrise, she proved she was not a burden, but a beacon. Her hands knew the path of the fences, her ears caught the rhythm of the animals, and her presence turned the lonely house into a home. Silas, the man once defined by bitterness, stood taller now, his eyes filled with something no scar could hide: love. But when the town finally saw her again, it wasn't just Ilara who returned. She carried in her arms 2 small children, twins with hair like spun gold and eyes that reflected both her calm and Silas's fire. The very same people who had sent her away as a joke gasped in disbelief. The cruel jest they had orchestrated had birthed a legacy of strength, resilience, and family. Whispers swept through the market square. "That's the blind bride." "No, that's Silas's wife." "And those, are they really his children?" Every word dripped with shock and awe. Ilara did not gloat, nor did she remind them of their cruelty. She simply walked with grace, holding her children close, her chin high. She had no need for revenge. Her life itself was proof of victory. Silas followed behind, carrying supplies, protective yet proud, his presence commanding silence. When he looked at Ilara, it was with reverence, the kind that silenced doubters faster than any shouted defense. The twins giggled, unaware of the storm of emotions swirling around their parents. The townsfolk had expected Ilara to come crawling back broken, but instead she returned whole, radiant and untouchable. Some tried to apologize, stumbling over words, but Ilara only said, "You sent me as a joke, but you gave me everything." I never dared dream. That single sentence shattered every ounce of malice that had lingered. Even the cruelest gossips could not deny the beauty of what stood before them. Ilara was not just a wife, not just a mother, not just the blind woman they once mocked. She was living proof that dignity, courage and love rise higher than cruelty. And Silas, once a man locked in shadows, had found the one soul who didn't just see him, but understood him completely. That night, as the family returned to the ranch, the town was left buzzing with the lesson they had unwillingly learned. Love has the power to turn cruelty into triumph. Ilara rocked her twins to sleep, whispering stories they could not yet understand, while Silas wrapped his arms around her and vowed never again to let the world's cruelty touch her. The blind bride had become the heart of a family, the soul of a ranch, and the living legend of a town that would never forget the day their joke backfired into a miracle. If this story moved you, imagine the next ones we'll share. Love, betrayal, redemption. Every tale carries a lesson worth holding close. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel